Thank you everyone again for joining us today. Welcome to today's session. It is the Financing Your U of T Education webcast. My name is Leah Robertson and I am the Recruitment Officer, Equity, Outreach and Support at the University of Toronto. As a U of T alum, I am well aware of the challenges to funding your education and how confusing it can be to navigate the wealth of financial resources at the University of Toronto. For our viewers today, the majority of the information shared as it pertains to financial aid and awards will be geared towards a domestic Canadian audience. This includes students with a permanent residency or refugee status. As a publicly funded institution, we are unable to provide financial aid to international students outside of a handful of scholarships. To learn more about scholarships for international students, please visit the following link, theawardexplorer.utoronto.ca. I would love if our team could please share that link. Jonathan, if you want to share that in the chat for the group, that would be amazing. All right, before we get started, let's review what's on the agenda today. To reiterate, this presentation is a broad overview and introduction to the scholarships, awards, and bursaries available to U of T students. We will not be answering any detailed and specific questions about your personal financial situation or Osap. Today, we will first discuss what is available at U of T, then how to access it, and lastly, what financial supports are available when you're here. A few housekeeping details. Please put your questions in the Q&A. You can also upvote to see what others are interested in. And if you're more interested, it'll bring it to the top and we'll answer those questions at the end, or my colleagues in the chat will also be addressing the questions. There's live transcripts available to you, so you can select that at the bottom of your screen. Also, keep a close eye on the chat, as my colleague Jonathan will be providing some helpful links in the chat. All right, let's get started. At the University of Toronto, we are committed to ensuring that financial need won't be a barrier to pursuing your education as a domestic student. This philosophy underpins all of our financial aid and awards programs. With one of the largest scholarship banks in Canada, the University of Toronto offers significant funding to support students in a number of funding pots. One, over $55 million in merit-based awards. These are awards based on your grades. Two, we offer over 3,500 work-study positions where students can earn money while they study on campus. And three, our largest pot is in needs-based grants and Uteps, which we will talk about a bit later. So we are using a lot of terminology, and some of this may be new to you. So let's explain these terms further. Awards and scholarships are fairly similar in that they are a monetary award based on academic excellence alone or in combination with financial need. A grant is a monetary award based primarily on financial need. This can be also referred to as a bursary. So sometimes you'll see grant and bursary used interchangeably. Government aid. This is help from both the provincial and federal government in the form of non-repayable grants and repayable loans. So we've got our terminology down and we know just how much funds are available. Let's now talk about how these funds are broken down and offered across the university. This grid indicates the ways in which awards and scholarships are categorized at the university. The highlighted areas here now indicate the funding areas that are of most importance to you as a high school applicant to the university. So on the screen, you'll see on the left, we have awards and scholarships, particularly admissions awards that can be automatic through the awards profile or divisional aid. And on the right, financial aid, which can be government aids such as Osap or U of T aid, Uteps. Let's start with admissions scholarships. Automatic admission scholarships are those that are based solely on academic merit, meaning that you do not need to submit a separate application for these scholarships. You are considered simply based on your grades. Some examples of these scholarships at U of T would be the grid scholarships offered at U of T Mississauga and Scarborough, and our President's Scholar of Excellence Award. Can I please ask Jonathan to share the President's Scholars of Excellence Award link in the chat for our viewers to review. There's also another layer of admission scholarships that require an application. These will require additional criteria such as extracurricular involvement, financial need, or leadership. Examples of these scholarships is our largest scholarships for domestic Canadian students, the National Scholarship that covers all 4 years of study, and for our international viewers, you will want to check out the Lester B. Pearson Scholarship. Again, if we can put the links for both of those scholarships in the chat. Our admission scholarships that require an application can be accessed in the awards profile. The awards profile is a very important step in the admission scholarship process for Canadian students. It is your gateway to additional scholarships that may need an application. The great part is you only need to complete this one profile that will then connect you to additional scholarships that you may be eligible for. You can access the awards profile after applying to U of T through your Join U of T portal. Additionally, self-identification is an option available to you as an applicant on the awards profile as a means to connect students to specific scholarships that are dedicated to certain communities. Self-identification is entirely confidential and does not have any correlation or impact on your application at admission to the university. It is important to self-identify, as this is the only way that the Financial Aid and Awards Department can connect you to scholarships that may be eligible for you. Our last type of admission scholarships is divisional or faculty aid. Each of the undergraduate faculties also offers certain entrance scholarships for their specific faculty. You can learn more about these scholarships by getting in contact with the faculties you've applied to. Now, the best way to see all of the available scholarships, awards, bursaries across all 3 campuses is through the Award Explorer. This is a comprehensive database for you to search all available scholarships at the university. Jonathan, will you populate the link in the chat, please? This is a great way for you to be able to search keywords and see everything that is available to you by using the different filters as you can see at the top of the screen. So now let's pivot a bit and speak about government aid. We will speak to Osap, which is the Ontario Student Assistance Program in this section. Osap is a government-funded student aid program, funding consisting of a mix of grants and loans. Osap is available to Canadian citizens, permanent residents, or protected persons who are Ontario residents. You can get a quick estimate of how much you might get from Osap by visiting ontario.ca/OSAP. Again, if we can put that link in the chat. As you do your research into university, U of T or otherwise, I encourage you to check out the Osap website to get a better sense of what Osap estimator might provide you, and it'll help you in your planning and forecasting for the coming year. If you're from another Canadian province or territory, or the First Nations band, you can apply for student aid through your province's financial aid program or through your First Nations band. Now, what is unique about U of T is that in addition to OSAP, in addition to OSAP and provincial aid, we have our own financial aid UTAPs. UTAPs, which stands for University of Toronto Advanced Planning for Students, is unique to the University of Toronto. UTAPs fills the gap when government funds are not enough. They can be used to cover additional education costs, example, tuition, books, and living expenses. OSAP recipients are automatically considered for UTAPs. No application is required. And of course, students can continue to access both government aid like OSAP and U of T aid like UTAPs once you're a student here. This doesn't end in your first year. It will continue throughout your undergraduate studies. I'll ask Jonathan again if you could please share the link to our financial aid page where you can learn more about UTAPs. All right, so we covered a lot about what is available. Now let's run through a case study of a student who accessed many of these resources, so you can get a better idea of how all of this funding can be combined to support financial need. So this is Claire. She is in the first year of her International Management Business program at the University of Toronto Scarborough. She is a single student who is living at home during her studies. Claire lives with her family. Her parents' combined income is $68,900, and Claire's sister is also studying at the university. So there are two dependents in this household going to university. Claire applied for Osap, but it did not fully meet Claire's needs. The University of Toronto provided her with a $1,364 UTEP's grant. In addition to Osap loans, which is not included here on the screen, Claire also received a $1,000 scholarship. This reduced the cost of her tuition and additional expenses significantly. So at the top of the screen, you'll see what Claire needed to pay for tuition and fees in her first year. And then below, you'll see that the additional funding that Claire received on top of the OSAP loan provided through provincial aid, U of T aid, and scholarship. This shows the mix in the way in which you can combine different types of funding to make your education affordable and to be able to access post-secondary education. So you may be wondering, what's the timeline of Claire's grade 12 year? On the screen, you'll see that there's an overview of what a grade 12 student application timeline and scholarship timeline will look like. The most important thing for you to note is that the scholarship timeline directly aligns with the application timeline. Therefore, it is important that you be mindful of submitting your awards profile and other scholarship applications early. So from the screen, you'll see that from the previous session as well, you'll be submitting your application to U of T starting now until January 12th. Then you can also browse our awards explorer and complete that profile by the 1st of February. So these directly align. And then you can get an offer to the university between February and May. And if you get one of those merit-based admission scholarships, you will see that in your offer letter. Then between April and June, you will be applying to OSAP, and then of course, starting your university journey in September. So the scholarship timeline and the application timeline align. So do your research now, make sure that you're able to see what deadlines are coming up, that you're not missing anything, because you don't want to wait until the winter or until after you receive an offer to start looking. You should really start looking now. So we're going to shift gears now and talk a bit about financial supports once you're a student here at U of T. Once you become a U of T student, in addition to financial aid supports, the scholarship supports continue as well. In-course awards are awards open to current U of T students. These will be available and specific to your faculty and or program of study. I tend to remind students of these awards so that if you do not receive an entrance award, always keep in mind that there's more funding to come. Graduating awards are awards that are for graduating students who are in their final year of study. These all can be found at that same link that would have been shared in the chat earlier called the Award Explorer. So there are also a number of ways in which you can earn money on campus as well. Work Study at U of T has over 3,500 paid on-campus positions that provide you with work-integrated learning experiences. Many libraries and colleges on campus hire students during the term. There are opportunities at athletic facilities, student unions, as well as other departments at the university. Also, we encourage students to make the most of U of T internships, co-op, and PEY co-op opportunities to help supplement your income. A benefit of working at the university is that it's a way of networking with staff, faculty, and other students. There's also an acknowledgement and understanding that you are a student, which also allows you to prioritize your studies while working. Additionally, it is important to note that work-study jobs on campus are open to both domestic and international students. The Career Learning Network, or better known as CLN, is a database where students can search all work-study positions. This is updated every fall and spring with new job positions available to all U of T students. It is a great way to see the breadth of opportunity and ways in which you can supplement your income while you're a U of T student. Last fall, we developed a handy guidebook that walks through all that we spoke about here today, with even more student profiles that gives you a better sense as to how U of T students are financing their education through grant, bursary, loans, and scholarship. Jonathan, if you mind, could you please share this link to the financial handbook in the chat as well? All right, so let's recap what we spoke about here today with 4 main takeaways for this presentation. 1, first, there are multiple ways to finance your education, including scholarships, grants, government aid, and even on-campus employment. Most students use a combination of a few or all of these resources to finance their education. Second, make sure you take advantage of all the resources that are available to you. U of T is here to help, and you don't have to approach financing your university education alone. If you ever need help accessing any of the resources, you can reach out to your registrar or other staff at the university can help you. Third, remember, admissions awards and aid are only the beginning. Many students worry that if they don't receive an admission scholarship, they won't be able to finance their education. Remember that once you're a student here, there are even more resources available to you, including thousands of scholarships and continued financial aid support through both government aid and U of T programs like UTEPs. Fourth, you will receive access to the awards profile when you get access to your Join U of T portal. It is important that you submit your profile by February 1st. Remember that the scholarship timeline runs parallel to the application timeline. All right, so that's it for my slides today. I really want to thank you all for joining us, and I hope that you enjoy the remainder of the day. But before you go, we do have time for some questions and answers. I have Gloria, who is joining me today. Hi, Gloria, who will be helping to moderate this session. So let's jump into some questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leah. Are you able to hear me properly?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. We have some really great questions in the Q&A. And the first one is, do we gain access to the awards profile with our Join U of T applicant portal?
Yes, that's a great question. When you get access to your Join U of T portal, that is where you'll be able to see the awards profile. So yes, once you get access to that, that's where you can go in and fill that profile out. Again, recommend that everyone fill it out as well as self-identify within that form, because that's how we'll be able to better match you to scholarships that you are eligible for.
Mm-hmm. And feeding off of that question, when is the best time for students who are not in Ontario to complete that awards profile, or just for students in general?
Yeah, so again, for Canadian students, domestic students, you can fill that out as soon as you have access to the Join U of T portal. So don't worry about waiting. I know the deadline is February 1st, but as soon as you get access, go ahead and fill that out.
Thank you, Leah. And then when should students expect to apply for OSAP? Is it during, before, or after their application?
Yeah, so you'll be applying to OSAP after your application. Applications are due in January at the latest, and then February 1st for that second step. Whereas OSAP, you typically will apply to between April and June after you've already applied to university.
Thank you. And if you have any questions about OSAP, going on the website and contacting them would also be a really, really good idea as well.
Definitely.
Can students in Canada outside of Toronto be eligible for UTEPs?
Say that, sorry, repeat that question one more time.
Can students in Canada who are not in Toronto, so those outside of Ontario, for example, can they be eligible for UTEPs?
Thank you. Definitely. So if you are a Canadian student and you access your provincial aid, your provincial financial aid, then you can access UTEPs.
Thank you. Do you get to know what colleges, so I'm guessing what universities are giving you what scholarships before you accept the college or the university that you want to attend? Is that something that like students will have access to in terms of how much they're receiving, if they're receiving any scholarships before they accept their offer?
Yeah, so for those automatic admission scholarships that are merit-based, you will get an answer or you will receive that right in your offer letter. So you will know right away whether or not you got that merit-based scholarship. Other scholarships, depending on when their deadlines are or when they release their award winners, that could vary for other scholarships. But when it comes to the admission merit-based scholarships, you will know right away if you've gotten that, and that can help you in your decision when deciding which university you would like to go to.
Great, thank you, Leah. So we are getting some really great questions and keep them coming. We do have lots of time. So our next question is UTEPs only based on income or are there any other requirements?
Great question. So it is going to be based on this similar criteria to when you apply to OSAP, because again, when you apply to OSAP, that's how you get access to UTEP. So things like your program of study, your living costs, your income, your household income, things like that will all apply. But again, it is related to the OSAP application, so it'll have that similar criteria.
Great, thank you, Leah. And next question, can you give us some examples of how we can demonstrate, so how we, in terms of applicants, can demonstrate leadership to qualify for scholarships? So when a scholarship is asking for leadership experience or examples, how can they sort of speak to that from their experiences?
For sure. I always try to say, don't be humble. This is the moment to brag about yourself. Okay. So really talk about how you were involved. Don't just state things like, I was president of this student club from in my first year or in grade 10, grade 11, whatever it is. Really go into detail, right? Talk about how you participated, what you did, what you contributed. Did you start something? Did you found something? Were there any achievements, right? Did you win any awards for your participation? How many hours did you spend in that club? And really make sure you're answering the question that they're asking, right? So if the scholarship asks you to detail how much time you spent in the club, what was your role? What did you learn? Make sure you're answering all of those questions fully. Do not skip out at any piece of it. Again, really brag about yourself, your achievements, your role, your contributions, things that you've learned. And this can be for anything that you participated in, right? So you don't have to be in a specific club or a specific role or sport. You really just need to be able to highlight yourself and all the things that you've achieved in that role.
I agree. Do not be humble. Absolutely speak to all the things that you've done and all the ways that you've accomplished what you've accomplished. Sort of pivoting away from pre-admission into university, when there are students in terms of financial aid, what are the co-op, internship, exchange, study, work abroad opportunities at U of T, and how can students access those opportunities?
Definitely. There are so many different opportunities that you can be a part of at the University of Toronto, and that's something that is amazing about being here. So one way, let's talk about co-ops first. The co-ops can be accessed either directly when you're applying. So there's things like at the Scarborough campus where there are co-ops for many of their different programs. There's the Arts and Science Internship Program at the St. George campus, as well as internships at all three. If it's not directly part of your program, as in you didn't apply to a co-op program, you can also go to your career counselor or your career office to ask them about internship opportunities. They can help you when it comes to looking for those opportunities, resume writing, interview skills, how to search job banks, things like that. So going to your career counselor, your career office is a great way to access those opportunities. When it comes to learning abroad opportunities or even doing an internship abroad, you can go and talk to your international student services. So you can go to the Center of International Experience at this camp, at the St. George campus, or your international student services at the other campuses, and talk to those staff there who can help you understand, okay, what's available? In which year should I go abroad? What transfer credits may I be able to get? And is there work experiences that I can do? So being able to access these resources is really important. We have a ton of staff who's here to support you through that process, understanding, if there's visas you need to get, who's your contact in those other countries. And again, there's a large list of different experiences you can access. If you want to check out the Center of International Experience, they actually have a list of different schools that we're partnered with, different opportunities that are available to you, whether that be research, studying, work abroad, etc. So check that website out as well to see the plethora of opportunities for you when it comes to studying or learning or working abroad.
Yeah, I actually remember when I was a student, I didn't do any work abroad, but I did a bunch of work study, and I found the Co-Curricular and Career Learning Network website really helpful. This isn't something that you need to memorize right now, but you will get access to a website, which is a hub of all the job opportunities at the University of Toronto, whether it's on campus or off campus or volunteering or internship or whatever it is, or research. That is a really great hub for all students to access those resources. And something to also keep in mind is the Career Co-Curricular Learning Network. It's a lot of it's a lot of C's. Thank you, Leah. So our next question is, does the Pearson scholarship need an approximate GPA in terms of in order to be awarded?
I believe so. Yes. So yes, it is going to ask you for your GPA. Gloria, feel free to add to that as well.
Yeah, I think all the requirements in terms of the Pearson scholarship are on our website, which Jonathan has linked in the chat. So you'll be able to see what they are actually looking for. And yes, your transcript, like we will have access to all of that in order to consider you for that award. But there isn't a specific cutoff, I would say. I would just definitely look on that website. It does have a list of those requirements. Next question. Sorry, it's taking me a minute to read it. I'm an international student. Is there any way for me to study free apart from getting the lesser B Pearson international scholarships? So basically, how can international students, sort of get extra support if they're not getting that lesser B Pearson scholarship, for example?
Gotcha. So as noted before, there is limited types of scholarships that students are available for international students. So if you wanted to go to the Award Explorer, you'll see what is there, but it's not necessarily going to be, full ride or full coverage type scholarships. But you can definitely look there to see what is available. And then other ways to help with funding are things like the work study program, being able to work on campus, and then also looking for additional scholarships through wherever you're coming from, so your home country or province, state, etc., to find ways to get additional funding. But from the University of Toronto, there are limited amounts of scholarships that are available to have a full coverage from the University of Toronto.
Thank you so much, Leah. So next question is about the national scholarship, which is sort of similar to that lesser B Pearson scholarship, but for domestic students. So a lot of questions that we get is, for students who are applying to the national scholarship, typically the deadline will be earlier than they can actually apply to U of T.
Yeah.
So someone's asking, if I'm planning to apply to that national scholarship, should I submit my application to U of T at the same time?
Yeah, great question. So there's two separate applications. They're not connected. So as soon as you have the opportunity to apply to the national scholarship, you should do so. The application is due on the 20th. So you do want to be making sure you're meeting that deadline. So go ahead and do that now. Not all Ontario students would have their PINs yet to be able to apply to the OUAC, but other provinces may be able to apply already. So there are two separate applications. So if you haven't applied to the University of Toronto through OUAC yet, that is okay. You can still go ahead and complete that national scholarship, again, because you want to meet that deadline of October 20th. So two separate applications, and if you haven't applied to OUAC yet, don't worry about it. Make sure you complete the other one before that deadline, the 20th. And then as soon as you get a chance to complete the OUAC, go ahead and do that as well.
Yeah. Speaking of deadlines and meeting deadlines, is applying early, does that increase your chances of getting a scholarship, or is any time by the deadline okay? So can a student apply anytime, or does it applying early increase their chances?
Yeah, this is a great question. So when it comes to applying, it's always great to apply early because then it allows for any awards committee or admissions, etc., to be able to review your application earlier, right? So it gives them time to be able to look at it, consider it earlier, which may allow them to come up with a decision earlier. So my recommendation is always apply early, whether the deadline is February 1st or October 20th, apply as early as possible to allow for the admissions committees or the awards committees to review your application earlier so they could possibly give you a decision earlier.
Yeah, apply as early as possible. That is our advice for everything. Apply for your application as early as possible, scholarships as early as possible. Our next question is related to students who are not directly coming out of high school. So they've finished high school, they took a gap year, or they graduated a while ago. Are they eligible for scholarships? And do they have a harder time getting these scholarships?
Yeah, so for students who are applying, again, all students who are applying will be able to be considered for admissions-based scholarships. The only difference is if you've gone and went into do post-secondary somewhere else first, right? So if your last schooling was within a high school, secondary school, and then you're applying, that is fine. You still can be considered for those admissions scholarships. There may also be specific scholarships for mature students if you are a mature student, so over a certain age, or have been out of school for a certain amount of time. So you can also look into scholarships like that as well.
Yes, ultimately, taking a gap year does not limit you from receiving scholarships from U of T. For the National Scholarship Award, where can I find out what documents I need to submit, and do I need to be nominated by my school to apply?
Yeah, great question. So again, if we can put the link to the National Scholarship in the chat, for this scholarship, you do not need to be nominated for your school to apply. So if you check out that website, you'll be able to see all of the eligibility, the requirements, application process, etc. But just so you know, no, you do not need to be nominated for the National Scholarship.
Thank you, Leah. Are there any specific courses for which Leslie B. Pearson Scholarship is awarded, or can any course, like I'm pretty sure they're asking about programs that they're going to study or courses in high school. Are there any specificity with regards to those courses or the programs that they're going to study at university?
Yeah, so for the Leslie Pearson scholarship, that is for all programs of study. It's not specific to, let's say, engineering or faculty of arts and science, etc. It is for all programs of study. Again, if you want to see that full information about eligibility and etc., that'll be on the website. But yes, you can apply to this no matter which program you are interested in at the University of Toronto.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Leah. So we have a really important question here. I think a lot of students also have this question in mind, especially coming out of the pandemic. So due to COVID, are students allowed to talk about their involvement in previous grades? For example, grade 10, and if grade 10 and 11 was affected, then are they allowed to talk about extracurriculars in grade 8 or grade 9 and so on?
Yeah, that's a great question. For sure, you're able to talk about your extracurriculars as far back as you see relevant to what the question is or what the scholarship is about. Of course, during COVID, that may have limited some of your opportunities. However, of course, there were online clubs, online activities that were happening during that time. So being able to really explain your situation, explain how if COVID was a huge effect in how your ability to participate in extracurriculars or any kind of leadership opportunity, to be able to explain that, to let them know, why there may be a gap in how you participated outside of the classroom. So be able to explain that. So yes, you can go back further, talk about the previous experience, but also address maybe if you didn't do anything in the past couple of years.
Yeah, another thing I would add to that is something that I've remembered a lot when thinking of scholarships or just applying to things in general. Quality is really more important than quantity. I know that sometimes you're like, I want to do so many things all at once, and the pandemic didn't allow that. And so if you did stick to just one activity, it really does show your commitment and your involvement in that one activity. So that is going to be really important. That's something that you can speak to. You don't necessarily have to have done 300 different things. We understand that's not possible. So if there's one activity that you've done that you feel that you need to speak to with regards to the questions that you're being asked on your scholarship applications, then please feel free to do so. Quality is also really important. I hope that helps. So our next question from Emma. I know that York University has an automatic scholarship system where, for example, if you get an average of 85 to 89.9%, you get X amount of dollars, and it can be renewed if those certain conditions are met during your time at university. Is there a similar automatic grade scholarship at U of T?
Yeah, thank you. That's an amazing question. So we do have a couple of grid scholarships at the University of Toronto Scarborough and the University of Toronto Mississauga. So for University of Toronto Scarborough, for domestic students applying, if you get an 88 to 89.9, then you could be awarded 1,000, 90 to 91.9, 1,500, 92 to 94.9, 2,095 and above, 12,000 renewable over the 4 years. At U of T Mississauga, it is 90 to 91.9 for $2,000, 92% to 94.9%, $3,000, and 95 and above, 12,000 renewable over the 4 years. So it's 3,000 a year. So yes, I prepared for this question. So that is available there for you. We do have those grid scholarships at the U of T Mississauga and U of T Scarborough, so you can always look those up on their financial aid pages.
Yeah, and for those who are interested in applying to the St. George campus, remember that there is an awards explorer that it lists all the awards that you can get as a U of T student, whether you're coming in or you're already a student. So that will also be important. And it's also, of course, available to students at the Scarborough and our Mississauga campus as well. But if you do receive an offer or a scholarship, it will be on your offer of admission on your Join U of T portal. So keep that in mind. Our next question, sorry, I'm sort of lost. Okay. Is 96% the general percentage? Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay. Are there scholarships for people who are in French immersion or bilingual?
Yeah, so again, if you look at that Award Explorer, you're able to see if there's any criteria for students. You can search by keywords, and I'm just going to pull that up here so you can kind of see an example of what the Award Explorer looks like. But you can search by keywords, right? So you can type in bilingual to see if there is a scholarship specific to bilingual students, French if it's specific to a program, and then you'll be able to see what comes up that may be directly related to you and criteria or self-identification that relates to you. So yeah, you can definitely check it out, see if there's anything that really specific to students who are bilingual or interested in French, etc.
Mm-hmm. And also that awards profile will be important, where you can also self-identify and see if you can get matched to some more awards as well. Are there any scholarship conditions such as value caps in the University of Toronto? For example, if I receive a scholarship outside of U of T, will that be taken under consideration by financial aid, awards, and admissions committees? They're talking about, I think, those external scholarships.
Yeah, so it really depends on each scholarship. So when you're applying to scholarships, make sure you read through what those eligibility requirements are. Some scholarships will state that, this is a non-stackable type of award, where if you get this award, then you shouldn't be eligible for others. There are others that'll say, no, it's completely fine for you to take on as many awards as possible, and you are able to stack them. So just make sure you're reading each of your scholarships carefully, making sure that you're reading the criteria to see what it is. But it does vary by scholarship, what the criteria is and whether or not they will allow you to take on other scholarships. It is always great to apply to multiple scholarships because you're never sure exactly which one you're going to get. And then once you do get awarded those scholarships, then you might have to make some decisions on whether you can accept certain scholarships based on whether they conflict with the criteria of another. But again, that shouldn't stop you from applying to the scholarships, just in case you do get multiple ones and the ones that you do get may be stackable. So go for it, apply to them, but make sure you're just reading that criteria carefully so you can understand whether or not you can accept them if there is any conflicts.
Mm-hmm. And what is the earliest deadline for some awards? Should I be looking as soon as possible?
Definitely. So when it comes to awards, scholarships, you should start looking now. Most of the time, these deadlines are concurrent, right? So you should be applying to scholarships now, looking for them now, because as we saw with the national scholarship, that deadline is in 5 days. So some of these scholarships have early deadlines as early as the fall. So you want to be looking them up now, doing the processes concurrently. So as you're looking at applying to universities, you should also be looking to apply to scholarships. Like I said, you're applying to some of these scholarships. You may not know whether or not you've gotten into a university yet or which school you're going to be going to, but that is okay. You can still apply for the scholarships. And then once you get an offer and figure out where you're going next, then you'll just know whether or not you can accept the scholarships that you have been offered. So definitely start looking them up now, making sure you understand those deadlines, marking them down in a calendar, agenda, phone app, whatever it is that you do to keep track of your deadlines, just to make sure you don't miss anything and that you're prepared to fill out any essays or criteria that they're asking for, that you're able to have time to get those documents, etc. But for the timeline, you'll see it on the screen here. It is concurrent with your application process, and so you should be looking those things up now.
Yeah. Thank you. And can you go over, just for clarification purposes, the percent, like the sort of breakdown that you had for those merit-based scholarships, and just sort of reiterating what you said with regards to that?
Yeah, no problem. So as I mentioned, for U of T Scarborough, we have 88 to 89.9% at $1,000, 90 to 91.9%, 1,500, 92 to 94.5%, 2,000, 95% and above, $12,000 being $3,000 per year renewable over the 4 years. And for U of T Mississauga, 90 to 91.9%, 2,000 non-renewable, 92% to 94.9%, 3,000 non-renewable, and 95% and above, $12,000 being 3,000 renewable over 4 years.
Yes, thank you. And are international students eligible for these merit-based scholarships?
Yeah, so for admission scholarships, the merit-based scholarships that are automatically assessed when you apply to the University of Toronto, yes, both domestic and international students are eligible for those merit-based scholarships.
Thank you. I think those are all the questions that we have in our session. So I think we can round it up a little bit early, a few minutes earlier. Thank you all so much for asking such wonderful questions. And if you do have any more questions, feel free to contact us or at any time, or continue to ask your questions in the chat. We will continue to look at them.
Awesome.
Thank you all so much. Yeah.
Thank you so